Hi, I'm Gavin with Haversick Designs, and this is the Sound Project. So I'm here today with my good friends Miles Fulwider and Mark Everetts from the University of St. Francis. And so good to see you guys again. It's been a little while since I've been here.
Hey Gavin, it was great to see you.
Yeah. So this is a beautiful facility that we worked on with you guys back in 2016. And it used to be a Scottish Rite cathedral, right? This whole building. And you guys took ownership of that, and now it's a recording studio, which is I don't think we've never done anything like that before. But it's a beautiful space. You've got a lot of rooms that the students can use. But I want to talk a little bit first about just kind of your guys' background and how you arrived here at University of St. Francis.
So this is year 14 for me at the University of St. Francis, and I teach a variety of music production and music industry classes, and then I'm also the studio manager, so I manage the students' usage of this big, beautiful playground that we get to spend hopefully 50, 60, 70 hours a day in every week, and all the fun that goes along with that. Before that, I ran a small studio in Nashville called Funky Loft right downtown. It was super fun. And then otherwise just kind of traveled around the country a bit doing a variety of things, and all things audio and music and performing. And but this is home, so I'm thankful that I get to work in the coolest, hippest university music production program and facility in the country, as far as I'm concerned, and live close to my family. So I'm very fortunate.
That's awesome.
So I joined the institution in 2016, which is when we opened up this space.
Yeah.
I'm not from the Midwest. My background is as a recording engineer and producer, traveled around, lived in New York City. Previous to moving here, I was in Mississippi and in the South. And there was an opportunity here that presented itself as the director of the music technology program. And admittedly, at first, I was not really sure if I was really that interested. And honestly, just kind of came out just to, I don't know, things that we do, to just interview practice and just kind of to see what's going on in the world around us. And I came out here, and it was, I met Mark and some of our other colleagues, Phil, and our dean at the time. And it was one of those things where the institution has a really very strong reputation in visual arts and things like this, just our all creative arts. And I came here not really sure what I really wanted out of the whole thing, and then I came here and realized what they were doing and immediately fell in love. And I remember being here for about a couple hours and then realizing, no, I really want this job now.
Yeah.
But so much vision, and again, when I first came and toured through here, this was still a construction zone. Mark took me around, and I think we were almost in hard hats still.
Yeah, we were.
And it's just kind of imagine what this will be like and stuff. But yeah, so this is year 8 for me here. And it's been an incredible experience, and incredible students, and the things that we're able to do again within this facility is amazing. So
yeah, I can't imagine being a student and having access to all these rooms, and like you said, it's a playground. For me, it would be the same way if I was coming through this program. But how many students do you guys have typically on a?
We typically hover around 50 students or so. We have the capacity to facilitate more than that. But that's where we're at currently. And again, one of the really amazing things for that is for our students is that they have 24-hour access to this. And so they're coming and going all times of days and stuff. And it's pretty common that we might leave at, say, 5 or 6 o'clock. And on our main level, it might seem like things are pretty quiet, but you can come down here and things are really happening down in all the studios and the suites and stuff.
Yeah. With the 24/7 access, do they just have cards that they, when you're a freshman, do you get 24-hour access, or is it just later on?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we really push around here and try to promote, is that idea that as soon as they become a student, that they get that 24-hour access. And so it's a card slider to get in the building, and really only music tech students get the card slider to get down here to all the super fun stuff in the main studios. And we just push that idea on them that, like, I think we're all really big believers of the arc and the curve that can happen if you really are going full bore for 4 years, as opposed to just like maybe 2 years that kind of tends to happen at a lot of programs. And so, like, Miles teaches their first entry-level recording class, and he gets them in Studio A here that first semester. And so they're like full bore running with everything right out of the gate. And so we want to see them use this whole building and everything in this building for 4 years.
And I think it's kind of a thing like none of us would ever argue. I mean, you can make an amazing record on your laptop in your kitchen, but one of the things that, as you'll see in the facility, it's and this goes to the design that you all worked together to build here, was the fact that there's a community aspect of that. And having worked in large production facilities in large cities and things like that, it's really amazing to see like who's working in Studio A today, who's in B, and what's happening here and there, and just that interaction, and the fact that our facility is set up for that. So the students know what's happening in all the different rooms at all the different times and stuff. And so there's really cool collaborations that would not otherwise happen if everybody just went back to their dorm room and just sat on their laptops.
Right.
And they can do that, and that's
Right.
great, and still work gets done that way. But the fact that we work as hard as we can to try to build that community and give them that experience, because with that democratization of the studio world, that is not as common as it once was. And so we try to really push that as much as, kind of, again, like that arc and stuff like that. And that's a strong component to that, in being able to see what your peers are working on.
Yeah, I bet it's awesome because, I mean, anybody hears about a project that another student is doing, they could maybe help on that or assist, or, just the collaboration aspect is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
With your program, what kind of students do you typically see come through here? Like, what are their aspirations as far as career goals and things like that?
So we have a very eclectic,
Yes,
very eclectic group of students. So we have students that come in and they follow a very traditional path. Maybe they had piano lessons growing up, or they played the trumpet in band and were in choir and in church or in high school, and they follow that traditional path, and so there's a natural transition into our program that way. But we also have students that come into our program that have no traditional training in anything music related. They just might like music, or some of them use their computer as their instrument, or they make beats and all these kinds of things. And all of that is valuable to us, and all of that is equal weight. And we look at that as far as scholarships and talent awards and all those kinds of things. And so we have a very eclectic types of students that come into our program that, again, these collaborations with students, well, some of them might have these students that are playing and are just monster musicians, and others that are just so skilled in other aspects or other genres that, again, you wouldn't normally have, I would think, in a program like this.
And I'll say, I mean, everything is cyclical and goes in waves, but I'm really excited. Like right now, I feel like is the best mix that we've ever had in terms of like a variety of, these students are into EDM, and these students are into hip hop, and these students do death metal, and these students do like indie pop or whatever it is. There's just a great blend right now that's super exciting to be a part of, and just like see maybe some of the collaborations again that go along with the crossovers, and just such a wide variety of what students are into and trying to do.
Do you ever feel like the classes that you guys teach, do you ever tailor them for the students that you know you're going to have in them, or is it pretty standard? I
think most of us work really hard to, so it's Miles and I teach most of the production classes, like we were saying, and then there's Phil, who does most of the more traditional music type classes. But all of us I think, approach it from the standpoint of we know what our students are wanting to do, which is contemporary music. And then we know that they're all going different directions. So like, I know I can speak to myself with a lot of the production classes. I might need to see this processing technique, or this type of gear used, or this routing, or whatever it is in a project. But as much as possible, I think we all try to leave room for their own personal creativity and how they use that and express that. And so that's one of those things that I think we collectively do well, and like to think about with the wide range of students that we have.
Right.
And we have the students have a really powerful voice here. Case in point, we actually have a project that's happening right now that's a feature film that came about. There's a film coming. It's a Christmas movie, and we had the opportunity to move to kind of be involved and provide all audio for this. So it had been shot, completely filmed, locked, edit, everything like this. But all the dialogue editing, sound effects, Foley, music composition, all of that we were able to provide.
Wow.
And with that, this came to us again through some student relationships, and it's a nice feel-good holiday film, and students brought this to us, and we have this, they want to do this as a project, and we were able to take that and actually build a class around that. So we were able to involve even more students in that to give that an experience. And so they're working on that right now, that they've got to deliver very soon, because it's going to go out to theatrical release. And that's in other conversations for a wider distribution and things like this. And so I feel we're very flexible. And so we're always adapting and maneuvering to either whether it's changes in the industry or things like this, but also it's always exciting when our students have a project. There's something that they come to us with that we can then either, whether it's with, a little bit of class attention on maybe, or maybe it's just outside of that, we're just helping mentor and coach them a little bit through it. But yeah, we can be very flexible, and we do a lot of things within the community as well that are really fun. So I don't feel like any two semesters are ever the same.
And to piggyback off that, we just launched the hip hop and R&B concentration because there's so much interest in that right now, and we do have a lot of students that's what they're pursuing. And so, Miles, I should let you talk about Willie, bringing in Willie, and what all that means, and the extent I think that we've gone to furnish that niche and service that niche that needs to happen.
Yeah, so so this fall we launched our hip hop and R&B concentration, and it seems timely as we're celebrating 50 years of hip hop this year. And so we have so many students that work within that genre, and we've really wanted to give a real study to that. And I think it's interesting when you look at that. Hip hop really, 50 years, that's not very long for a music genre or style, but we do have the benefit of looking at, say, rock and roll. It's, we're coming on just, about 100 years, and so, you just being able to look at that academically and see the impact both socially, economically, pop cultural, all those kinds of things. And obviously we all know the proliferation across all music genres and stuff. And so we wanted to step into that with a very robust curriculum, which we created, and we worked with several industry professionals as well, but it also allowed us to bring in an artist in residence. And we have Willie Green out of Brooklyn, New York, who's working with us, and he's been teaching online. He's actually coming out here and providing workshops and lectures and things like that. And so, again, just really trying to own what changes are happening and get our students involved in those kinds of things. And again, ultimately, we always just want to be exposing our students to as many different things as possible. Yeah. And we do that within music, but we also do that within sound design and post-production and audio for video games and those other areas as well.
I think it's so important what you guys are doing, because not every student are all going to have the same interests, and rarely are they even the same.
Absolutely.
And so I just know that from like my kids, they go to a Montessori school, and it's all just teaching the love of learning. And I think that's what you guys are doing, is that like finding out what people are passionate about and then giving them tools to make that happen, which is awesome. How much are you guys involved with their projects? Are the projects they have to do on their own, and you don't speak into that, or do you actually get involved?
Again, I think all things vary, but I think we typically, set up, again, these guidelines. I need to see this, this, and this. We like, obviously, teach the tools, and then I think the students are good about coming to us for feedback. It might be a class for me. Maybe they're scared to ask for my feedback, so they'll go to Miles, or vice versa. We see that happen a lot. Or again, we're not scary to everybody, but to certain students. And so, there's a lot of interaction and bouncing ideas off of each other and the other faculty and students. And so it's fun to see.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty involved. I mean, and it's just to kind of add to that. It's funny because, Mark will teach some of the courses that he teaches, for example, like the industry courses and things like this, and really trying to drive home those topics of just how the mechanics of the industry works. And, they'll certainly work with Mark, but every now and then they'll come and talk to me about like, well, what about this and this? And they'll do the same thing with Mark with other recording projects or production projects I have and stuff. But the nice thing about that is they get a wide range of perspective on something like that. But we have a pretty good sense of like, we're pretty involved in the projects, and we try to provide as much feedback as we can all through the process and things like that.
And so again, I mean, just based on the design of all of the studios and everything around here, like we're all in and around here often. And so as you're walking through, I mean, you see the windows into the studio, into the control rooms, and it's all very visible. Again, kudos to you for beautiful design and all of that, but that really lends itself. So you're walking by, you see, oh, they're doing something, or you can see somebody struggling with something,
Yeah.
and it's super helpful.
I know that was by design with the windows, like there's some windows like the one here to the left of the control room, it just leads to a hallway.
Yeah.
And so it maybe wasn't necessary to have that for studio work, but it was also thinking about giving tours of the
Yeah.
facility or allowing people to see in and what they're doing. I think if it was all closed off, there'd probably be less collaboration because
Yeah.
people wouldn't know what was going on.
No, it's fun to always just be able to walk through the basement here and see what's going
Yeah.
on.
I mean, if I ever want to hide, I can't.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no room that people can't find me or see me in. But it's nice to be able to do that. Like if the students need to find us or find other people, I mean, you can do a quick lap and you know who's working, what's going on, and stuff. And so it's really fun.
That's really awesome. Do you guys use the studio for personal projects very often?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do. There's got to be some perks, right?
Perks of the job, right?
Yeah, quite often.
Yeah. What kind of stuff do you do in here?
I've shot a number of videos for the pop punk band that I play in the different spaces, and not just the studios, but I mean the whole building is, again, just like has so many different unique spaces. Like there's the studios, but then the ensembles rooms that you worked on upstairs are great and just have a different aesthetic. And so it's just like there's unlimited options around here, not just for the students, but for us too.
Yeah.
And right next door, I mean, we share a wall of a 2,000 seat auditorium that we have access to.
And a ballroom that can be great for reamping and all sorts of crazy
concrete
things.
stairwells. I mean, when we do sound design projects, it's really fun because it's like legitimate. It's like you do not have to leave this building. Like you cannot find anything that you can imagine can be done here.
Yeah.
But yeah, a number of my professional clients and stuff like that have come out here, and we've worked on a number of records in here, and they've always enjoyed coming out here. It's easy. It's you know, being in Fort Wayne, it's just easy to get into. It's not like you know, going, you know, if they're leaving LA or they're leaving New York, it's just kind of nice and easy. Come in, work, do the thing, and then they can get out and go and stuff. But that's also been really fun because if we do these projects, it also allows us to have our students involved as well, and so they can be assistant engineers and other things like this. And so I had a project that not this last ballot cycle, but a ballot cycle previous, that was on the ballot for Grammy nominations. And so within that, we had 3 students that were assistant engineers on that. And so
cool.
just really great for them to be part of that and just to see that dynamic. And also, I think, see us in that space as well. So it's not that they're always seeing Mark and Miles lecturing at me, but how do they work in the studio and stuff like that.
Real world experience and knowing how, you know, you guys have been working in the industry for a long time, and they can see how you not only operate the technical side of things, but also how you interact with clients. Because that's, I think, a big part of the industry is just being able to get along with people and make sure that you're, you know, not socially awkward while you're doing all of this.
Absolutely.
So before this building existed, there was another facility that we did a little bit of work in, but talk about that and Gavin, transition was like.
Gavin, you're bringing up nightmares from years gone by. So a little bit of background. It was essentially what felt like an attic adjacent to a gym in an old church that the university had acquired, and that's where music technology was placed because it's a small university and that was the only space that really could accommodate what we needed to do. And so and there wasn't, I'm obviously clearly the investment that was made in here. It was sort of like Band-Aids to get going and to get the program up and running. For what it was very nice, but it wasn't anything like this. And it was adjacent to a gym that got used way too often. And so that meant you could be teaching a recording class, or a student could be working on a project where they're trying to record mandolin or something like that. And there could be a Zumba class in the gym next door or a basketball game or all sorts of crazy stuff that was just, honestly enraging at the time. Yeah. And space was very limited. We were busting at the seams. And so honestly, I mean, I remember through those early years telling my students to make every complaint possible, like do every form possible, like going and talking to the deans and everybody else. And then even saying like, no, like put it on my faculty evaluation, like everybody get together and put like, this isn't acceptable. We can't do this. And I think honestly through that sort of constant fight and push the students kept like making their voice heard is one of the reasons I think I attribute to like this amazing, wonderful space that we have. That like, I mean, honestly, I don't want to say no expense was spared, but in some rooms I feel like no expense was spared, and they really did everything top notch as possible. And so to go from that there were lots of compromises and lots of things to fight, to this really truly, designated spaces to focus and do different aspects of the things that we do in the audio community, has been a super fun journey. And so, it was an interesting space. I mean, as many people I know have to deal with those things.
Sure.
But
I remember going over to the old space a few times and working with you and Jeff Rogers at the time, kind of improving some of those spaces. But at the end of the day, there's just some limitations you can't get around with that basketball court being there, and some of the sound isolation issues that we had with that. But I mean, it probably was you got to experience it before and after, because a lot of the students that come in here, I guess there were probably a few students
there was a handful that lived through that transition that thought that they, hit the lottery. It's like, what is this world that we're living in now? And just that amazing transition.
A lot of seniors were not happy.
Yes. Yeah. The people who missed that by a year, there was.
I can relate to that, because I went to mechanical engineering school at Colorado State University, and I think it was a year or two after I graduated, they announced they were going to build this whole new dorm just for engineers, and it was like live workspace, to where all the labs were like on opposite or odd number floors, and then the living spaces were on the even number floors, and you could just go downstairs and be in the lab and then go right back up to your room. And I helped pay for it though.
Yeah,
like that works. But I bet the students, when they walk in here, they're just like, How many students that come in currently have been in spaces like this before?
Yeah, I would say almost none.
Yeah.
But on the opposite side of that, I mean, I can say, I think we're to a point now, we're getting students who've done tours with, at the big names. Should I say the big name? I mean, I don't need to say the big names. Do you want me to say that?
You can. Yeah,
like I know they're visiting Belmont and MTSU and
sure.
We'll stop there, but they're really doing the research and looking around and going to the big schools. And it's a testament to what we're doing here, but it's absolutely a testament to you. Like we're winning those students, sometimes. And so that's a good feeling for being the small school that we are in the middle of, Northeast Indiana.
That's great.
I remember coming out and touring. I did a presentation in the old space, and then even though this was like a whole construction zone, it was just like, oh yeah, like this is not even on the same planet by comparison of where you were to what this is. So,
what the students that graduate from this program, what are some of the things that they've gone on to do?
A really great variety. I can say we just came back from touring. We did the AES convention in New York. We took 11 students out there. It was super fun, and all the fun that goes along with that. But we had a student who graduated in 2012, I believe, who's been working at Flux Studios with Fab DuPont for the last 8 years, and really been a key player there for several years. And so that's super cool. We've had one graduate a handful of years ago that he's been working with. He got a Billboard Gold with Young Thug, I think, and he's been working with Gunna and some other really important names right now in hip hop. And so there's a number of students like working really high level live sound touring and stuff like that. And so there's a cool variety. I mean, I'm sure I always forget, I always feel like I should carry that list with me, but it's really cool to see. There's some students really killing it and working at a high level.
That's awesome. Yeah, the experience that they gain here, and the fact that they've already worked in a studio that is at the level of a lot of like major studios. They got similar gear, similar types of rooms. I mean, to have that be your backyard for 4 years, it's like you're prepared, to go into that world.
I mean, when we're teaching them in the rooms, it's like if you understand this console and this workflow, and in Studio B where we have an S6 and Dolby Atmos, of that, like if you have a really strong understanding of that, it's hard to go into a. I mean, you might need to have some training on their unique configurations of things, but you understand how it's going to work, and you can work in those rooms. But we also have students that are doing really cool industry things, working with management and artist development and things like that too, particularly out in California, and some other things like that are doing that. They're not they're not so heavy on the technology side, but they're much more on the artist development side, which has been really.
And then, I mean, again, we're next door to Sweetwater, so
Yep.
we have, I mean, dozens and dozens and dozens. I don't even know if it's, I think maybe I heard at one point 60 at this point who either worked or have worked there at some point and have done, basically, I feel like most of the jobs out there, whether it's working in the studios or the live sound or doing the sales engineer thing, where they're working with, again, a very high-end clientele all over the world, really. And
Yeah.
so,
I give the trainings there at Sweetwater. I do the acoustics trainings every, 8 weeks or so. And I always, in the presentation, I show pictures of these rooms. And, it seems like almost every time there's one guy in the class like, hey, I went to school there. So, yeah, it's nice to have, that access there, because I know you guys worked with them on the gear integration of the space, and we also worked with Design Collaborative for the architecture piece of things as well. But it was a really solid team to kind of put this whole thing together. Matt Call from Simplified Acoustics did all the stretch fabric and the install of a lot of the panels. But when you acquired this building and then we started the design, did you think it would be as involved as it was?
it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of work, and again, like, I know it's your podcast, but like, it was amazing working with you, and your attention to detail was amazing, but always like never feel it overwhelming, but like, wow, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot to think about, and your thoroughness was just great to see and be a part of.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a really, I think there's only maybe one other project that had more rooms than this one did, but it was a large thing for us. And back then, 2016, it was still only me.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have any employees, so I was kind of handling all of it. But it's but also I know I can't do this stuff on my own. The architecture firm, representative from Sweetwater, that just all come together to make it happen. But with a space like this too, the other challenge was it being like a historical building, like the Scottish Rite building that got converted, and so there's certain things you just can't do. There's also, it's a public space, so there's code issues that you had to work around with the layout. So there's
one thing that I remember about early meetings that, I mean, again, I think was cool from your end, but also surprising to me from the University of St. Francis. And it was like you presenting, we can do this, or this, and in certain rooms we had to do this level or something. But there, obviously, like Studio A here, the mastering studio, I mean, everything is just top tier. Grade A is impressive, I think, and as detail focused and oriented as you can get. And so I thought that was cool both from your end, and then the fact that University of St. Francis really stepped up on a number of levels in a few of these rooms and really did it grade A top tier.
No, it was one of those things where we're always focused on the budget. There's a budget for every project, but also making sure that we're making decisions that aren't just budget focused only. Like, we want to let people know, like, okay, if we do that, then this is the ramification of that, and make sure that it's not something that we're sacrificing too much quality just to save a few dollars. And so, however, with acoustics, there's so many different materials that this does the exact same thing as this looks a lot better, and so there's decisions that you have to make with that. And but yeah, I think you guys did a great job with selecting, having kind of the flagship rooms of the Studio A and the mastering rooms being more of like stretch fabric and custom work, and then some of the other rooms being more like they're custom panels, but they're kind of off-the-shelf items rather than something that's handmade or custom built. But you also, when you walk into those rooms, you don't feel like there's any less quality.
Absolutely not.
Like, it's pretty amazing what you guys have built here. And what do you guys see as the future for the program? Like, do you have dreams to do other things or things that you can talk about, I guess?
I just want, to increase, I want more people to know about us, honestly. I think we're still a very, very small school in Northeast Indiana that has, I think, marketing challenges like everybody does at times. And so just getting the word out. I think when people learn about us and they see and experience the spaces, and they get to know what we're all about and our philosophy or our approach and with the cool things that students are doing. Like, I just want more people to know what we're doing, and so we can kind of grow and have we do get students kind of all over. We have a handful of international students that we've gotten, and that's through a pairing of our athletics and the cool things our athletics are doing, but also, we're drawing students from little points all over the country. We're mostly regional, but I mean, I want to be pulling from everywhere,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's really, as we talk with students and parents of students and things like this, the thing is one of the great things about what we do and what we love doing is that we also have a lot of opportunities for, we have the collaborations within our program, but we have collaborations with other programs and things. We've done some really interesting projects with again, we're talking about this film, like with film projects or with our animation department and things like this. And so there's this other opportunity where there's a lot of other creative sectors that students get to work, not just with other creative students, but with other faculty members. And so there's just a lot of opportunity. And I think one of the benefits to being small is that the students have a lot of opportunity and a lot of exposure to faculty and time and resources. And if they want to make use of that, we could go on and on about the successes of our students that really utilize that and take advantage of that. And so I think for us, we're always just looking to make sure we're on our game. And I mean, we love what we do. We wouldn't be here as much as we are if we didn't.
Yeah.
And so that's really what we're focused on and stuff. And so it's nice that we get to know our students personally. We get to know them very well as far as what they're looking to do and their interests and things. And so again, just kind of taking that, to a bigger stage, so to speak, and growing that and sharing that with more students. I think because, again, so many people have just a very specific idea of what this might look like as careers and things like this. And there's so many other opportunities. Right. And the studio is really fun and there's lots of blinking lights and stuff. And that's just one thing. But there's so much more to it. And it's so common that we have students that come here and we have several different concentrations and they're trying to do them all and all of those things. And I think that just speaks to just them being exposed to so many different opportunities. And so that's something that we also just from the standpoint of education, we want people to realize that there are so many opportunities in this field. It's challenging like anything, but at the same point, I'm an optimist. I've always felt optimistic about the industry, but it's just one of those things where you have to constantly be, moving and things like this, and just exposing people to those options is really important. And even just other educators and stuff like that. We do a lot of high school programming because even high school counselors and stuff, they don't always necessarily know, and that's no fault of their own, but it's just helping them realize, oh, you have a student that maybe wasn't in choir or band, but they have these aspirations. They don't know what that could even possibly lead to. So we're always trying to help them understand what that can be career-wise.
I think it's important just to be agile as a student. It's like I just, speaking of some of my employees, like some of them have music technology degrees, but then after school they worked as a drafter, and now they're doing drafting for studios, so it's still tying it back in because they have a lot of different types of skills. And it's I always tell people, though, I mean, the main thing is just when I go to speak at universities and talk to students, it's just like follow whatever you're passionate about. Like that's the key, is like, because there's too many people that are working a job that they just don't enjoy. And the result of that, you end up taking it home with you, it affects all aspects of your life. But I feel like this program and music technology in general, you probably get more of that, of people who are following their passion, than maybe other degrees. So I think that what you guys are building here, it's offering just such a solid foundation for people, and something that they're going to then take out into the world. And it's always cool to see too, like, because I follow you guys on social media and we're friends on Facebook and all that stuff, but just to see when you share something your students are doing, it's just like, wow, that's like, it's also fun just to know, like, I had like a tiniest part of that, like a really small part of it.
They have a pretty big part of it, actually.
Physically a big part of it. But it's so cool to see what you guys are doing and how you're speaking into their lives. So
thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast here, and excited to maybe we'll do another one of these in 5 more years and see where you guys are at. And
let's do it.
Yeah, but thanks for having us here.
Thanks so much, Gavin.
Thank you.
Fun.
Thank you for being part of the S.O.U.N.D project. If you have any ideas for future episodes, feel free to email us at info@haversickdesigns.com or comment below, and we'll see you next week.